صباح الخير. مرحبا. شكرا Dr. Ahmed. شكرا Huda. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure, and I'm really grateful to obviously be moderating this session, something that is close to my heart. This topic is really close to my heart, championing Arab cuisine. Across the region, Egypt, Palestine, Jordan, Morocco, Lebanon, and the Gulf, and all that's in between, our food tells the story of who we are. It carries memory, history, our identity, and our heritage. And yet today our food heritage is under pressure, sometimes through appropriation, sometimes through misrepresentation, and sometimes simply by being forgotten. That is why it feels so important right now to pause and ask, how do we protect our cuisine? How do we celebrate it? And how do we carry it to the world with authenticity and pride? Food has never been just about sustenance. Food is identity, food is resistance. It's a way of connecting with our land, with our past, and with our people. And it is how we tread into the future. I've always been a hard believer of the power of chefs in leading the work. They are part artisans in the way that they go about their daily craft, preparing food that nourishes and delights, but they're also artists in the way that they constantly reimagine traditions and introduce us to new ideas and help us see possibilities and connections that we never thought possible. The choices they make about ingredients and recipes and story carry immense responsibility and a lot of influence. Chefs are no longer confined to the kitchen. They are cultural innovators, freedom fighters, environmental activists, and educators. Every menu can tell a story about history, about the land and its people, about sovereignty, and about the future of food itself. Today, we're lucky to be joined by voices who are doing exactly that. Quick round of introductions. Mostafa Seif, a leading voice in Egyptian gastronomy today. From early days cooking in family street stalls to winning Top Chef Middle East, his journey has been about elevating Egyptian cuisine. At his restaurant Khofu, he blends heritage with innovation, drawing on childhood flavors to create a modern vision of Egypt's culinary identity. Chef and friend Qais Malhas is behind Amman's most beloved Shams al-Balad, a spot that has moved beyond restaurant status to become a platform for talking culinary, food, drinks, arts, and culture in Jordan and the wider region. The focus of Qais Malhas and his family's Shams al-Balad is on seasonal and local produce, connecting the food heritage of Palestine and Jordan with contemporary Arab identity. Tarek Alameddine is a culinary storyteller redefining Lebanese cuisine through a deeply personal lens. His early experiences foraging herbs and preserving produce in his hometown instilled a profound respect for nature and tradition. A very well-versed chef, truly from the region and from the world. From culinary education in Jordan to stints in Brazil, Denmark, here in Egypt, and now back in Lebanon, his knowledge and skills are ready to transform Lebanese ingredients and cuisine in a way that we cannot imagine yet. Fayçal and his journey from the kitchens of New York and Miami to Europe, and specifically in Germany, where he won acclaim and multiple awards. In 2024, he returned to Morocco to open La Table Trois in Casablanca, the country's first fine dining restaurant led by an acclaimed Moroccan chef. Blending French technique and Mediterranean roots and Japanese flair, Fayçal has quickly gained international attention and recognition. So together, through restaurants, community spaces, and creative platforms, they are showing us what it means to truly champion Arab cuisine today. My name is Omar Shihab, and I'm the founder of Restaurant Baka in Dubai, where much of my work is centered around sustainability and the future of food. But above all, I'm here with you as a believer in the transformational power of chefs. I have seen how their work extends far beyond the kitchen, shaping culture, identity, and the way our region is understood in the world. Now, before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that this panel is in no way representative of the full scope of the Arab culinary world. We unfortunately do not have any women representation on stage today. And yet, across our region, women not only lead iconic kitchens, they lead the majority of kitchens, period. We're also missing voices from many countries across the Arab world. I think it's important to state this today and clearly, so we recognize that what you're here today is just a glimpse into a wider and richer story. Now, I've taken too much time. It is a privilege to be here in Cairo at the Grand Egyptian Museum to moderate this conversation and to learn from the inspiring people beside me. So let's begin. Chefs, this is an intimate session, a session about you, about food, and food is nostalgia. And nostalgia is our human desire to relive the sensations of our first experiences, the one that's imprinted in your brain. And it is the one, and so that's what I want to ask each one of you. And I want to also understand if it was the one that really opened your eyes to the richness and diversity of our own land, our own ingredients, and our own cuisine. And I want to start with you, Fayçal. If you can tell us about that early memory, and is it really the one that made that connection?
Well, thank you for having me, and such a great time so far in Egypt. The cooking for me was all about memory. Best times growing up was around food. I mean, in Morocco, just like a lot of countries in the region, the best moments are around in the kitchen with the mothers, with the grandmothers, and sometimes the fathers cooking. And so early memories really fueled this sense for me to be in the kitchen. I didn't start in the kitchen, so when I went to school, it was not for culinary at all. And but I always knew that I wanted to cook because it just I think just like many chefs here, you like to nurture and nourish people and see people having a good time at your restaurant or at home. So yeah, it was always around good memories and of childhood.
Amazing. And was there a particular moment that you said, I want to go back to Morocco and I want to really look at what is growing in the land and how do I bring it up to the public, to the audience?
Well, it was always when I was in Germany, and I would be making menus, and it was daily menus. So we go to the market or suppliers. We were in Germany in the country land, and we had our own land, about an acre. So we supply most of our fruits and vegetables even through winter. And there was always this question: would this work in Morocco? And I would make a menu, and I would make a menu that would fit Morocco. Make a menu that would fit Germans, and then in the back of my head it would be like, oh, this would not work for Morocco.
Right,
Maybe
right.
we'd tweak it this way and this project came for this. It was we let everything go. I mean, we took a decision to actually close the restaurant. They're doing very well. Been open for 8 years. And to go all in and go back home. I'm from Casablanca. I grew up 5 minutes from the restaurant. Even though everybody was saying Marrakesh is the place to be and it's very touristy, I wanted make the challenge even harder and be in my hometown, where where I'm comfortable and where it's challenging, and see if a restaurant with that style of food, would it work? And so far we're happy, I would say.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Tarek, I'll jump to you right away because you have your food memories and the need to relive these nostalgic moments. But then there was a moment of realization later on in your career.
Hi, thank you for having me. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess for me as an Arab or in the Middle East in general, especially in Lebanon, the moment you decide you want to be a chef or you want to do something, the first thing you go and you look into Europe and the West, right? And we're like, everyone grows up cooking basically his first, as a professional chef, your first like pasta or whatever, and you're obsessed in what's happening around Europe. for me, it was like I went to Noma, I did my internship, then I started as a CDP, and then at that time, Renee was asking me questions concerning like hummus and some other dishes that I had no clue how to do, like not even an answer. I was young, I didn't know much, and I was like, all what I want to know is like the new Nordic cuisine, and then they're asking me questions about my cuisine that I didn't know how to answer. And then this sparked like, okay, then let's start discovering. And then we had conversations with Renee, like what if we find techniques in the Arab world that we can implement to Noma? And that was the journey. And then he visited in 2018 to Lebanon. And we were driving near my hometown in the car. And then he looks like there's a yellow flower in the season, like literally everywhere in the mountain. And then he asked me, what's the name of this flower? So I was like, I don't know. He's like, is it edible? I was like, I don't know. And then that was the moment when like I realized that, okay, I spent so much of my 20s discovering what's in Brazil, what's in Spain, what's in Copenhagen, and what's in the States. And now it's time to go back home and just discover what we actually have.
Exciting, Tarek. Thank you. Qais, I'll move to you. You have some fun memories as well, of course.
Yes, of course. I mean, I think memory is the for me, and I'm sure for most chefs here, the driving force behind any dish or any menu. And I think the way you start to unlock meaning for any diner through food as a medium, is by creating these links to shared memories. And that could be, through taste, aroma, experience, color, any one of those factors. For me, obviously, my memories, like probably most chefs here and most people here, early memories around food are of my grandmother's cooking. Yeah. One more than the other. One would involve me more, the other would keep me out of the kitchen. And that's what we try to create. I think there's a lot of interest in doing things that are new a lot of the time. But I think the key there is still figuring out how they are related to your core memories, so that the guest can also go through a kind of similar experience. It's like looking at yourself in the mirror for the first time and starting to understand what the nose looks like and the ears as a baby. It's like, the Lacan effect, the mirror experience. And that's what you want any diner looking at a dish to go through. And if they're really going to appreciate it, then it should unlock some part of their own memory that the chefs are unaware of.
Sure.
But if you do the work, I think you'll get there with your food. I don't know if that's too abstract to be eligible. But
it is personal, and obviously you're instigating all of that. Mustafa, إيه كانت أقدم وأجمل ذكرياتك مع الطعام؟ وهل كانت تلك اللحظة اللي غيرت نظرتك إلى المطبخ المصري أو العربي بشكل عام؟
اول حاجه انا شكرا ان انا معاكم هنا ومبسوط كل واحد فيكم بيحكي عن اجمل حاجه في حياته اللي هو المطبخ، وشرف لي ان انا معاكم وشكرا ان انتوا جيتوا. فهتكلم عربي معلش سامحوني، فده اسهل ليا. بص انا عندي كذا قصه. انا عمري ما تمنيت ان انا ابقى شيف، ولا عمري قلت انا نفسي اطبخ، ولا في اي حاجه طلبت يعني عمري ما كنت اتخيل من كل سنه. ما كنتش اتخيل السنه دي اللي فاتت دي ان انا ابقى في السنه الجديده دي واصل للي انا عملته ده. فان الستوري الاقوى بالنسبه لي واللي انا شايف اللي انا اصعب حاجه مريت بيها في المطبخ، اول حاجه بديت يعني كذا ستيب. اول حاجه كان اصعب حاجه عملتها في حياتي، انا قعدت 5 سنين عشان اعمل سندوتش كبده. فده كان اصعب حاجه في حياتي اتعملت في حياتي. يعني جدي كان بيقول لي عشان تعمل ساندوتش لازم تبقى قادر تعمله، والزبون اللي جاي لك يدفع الفلوس وهو مبسوط ويبقى مبسوط بالساندوتش اللي انت عملته. فانا قعدت 5 سنين عشان اعمل ساندوتش كبده، فده اصعب طبق عملته في حياتي. فما تخيلش حد ممكن يقعد 5 سنين عشان يعمل حاجه. تاني حاجه لما دخلت الجيش دخلوني المطبخ، يعني انا كنت لسه جاي من مركز تدريب، دخلوني المطبخ قالوا لي انت هتخش مطبخ الجيش. انا ما بعرفش اطبخ. لا هتعرف تطبخ. النهارده في رز وفاصوليا وانا ما اعرفش الفاصوليا بتعمل ازاي. فقعدت اراجع في ذكرياتي كده، الفاصوليا امي كانت بتعملها ازاي، والست دي بتعملها ازاي، والست دي بتعملها ازاي بالطعم، مش انا ما بخش مطبخ. فلقيت نفسي عملت رز وخلصت. فبقيت اكمل كل الاطباق كده لغايه اما كملت السنتين بتوع الجيش بتوعي. خلصت الجيش فده انا اتعلمت المطبخ في الجيش ومطبخ في الشارع. وبعد كده كان اول مطعم اشتغلت فيه كان مو كافيه. كان ساعتها مو كافيه، دلوقتي مو بيسترو، مع نفس الشيف عمرو صلاح برضو. هو ده اول شيف استقبلني. فاول اسبوع قالوا لي انت هتخش الجارد مانجيه، والشيف اللي كان بيعلمني المفروض ما قالوا شهر ما خدش اجازه، فلازم يعلمني كل حاجه في الاسبوع ده عشان ينزل اجازه. فانا اشتغلت، عرفت كل حاجه في الستيشن بتاع الجارد مانجيه في اسبوع. فانا كل حاجه كنت بتزق فيها. فلما دخلت توب شيف برضو دي كانت مرحله تانية في حياتي. انا ما كنتش بطبخ مصري، بس كنت بحاول اغير في الاكل المصري. فقالوا لنا انتوا لازم تعملوا الاكل بتاع بلدكم. فبقيت هجرب الاكل التكنيك اللي انا متعلمه، الفرنسي والايطالي والاسيوي اللي انا متعلمه، اللي انا بطبخه في العادي في الاكل بتاعي. ولقيت الحكام بتنبهر بيه. فبقيت اشتغل على التكنيك الاوروبي على الاكل المحلي. فده كان بالنسبه لي خلاني وصلت لمرحله نضج كبيره قوي في الاكل المصري، وحبيت ان انا ابقى متحمس جدا ان انا اعمل اكل مصري. لحد ما جات لي فرصه خوفو. في الوقت ده ما كانش في حد بيروح مطعم مصري عشان يبقى فخور اللي هو رايح مطعم مصري خالص. فكانت التجربه بتاعتي كانت الاصعب مع جوفاني بولاندريني. جوفاني ما بيحبش الاكل المصري، وهو منبهر بالاكل الايطالي جدا. فقلت له انا هعمل لك اكل مصري الايطالي اللي يحبه. فده كانت التشالنج بتاعي، وده كان اول تيستنج. وجوفاني اول ما ده الاكل قال لي ده مش طبيعي. فقلت لهم لو هو عجبك انت وانت مش بتحب الاكل المصري، فده اكيد ممكن اتحدى بيه العالم كله. فده كانت الفكره بتاعت خوفو، اللي احنا اول ما يجي لك جست او اي ضيف من بره مصر، اول مطعم تفكر فيه في دماغك خوفو. لازم تجيب الناس تعرفهم على اكل بلدك في مطعم خوفو. وده كان شرف ليا، واتمنى يكون الفكره دي ناس كتير حسيتها. فده كان اكتر حاجه، دي التحديات اللي باختصار رحله حياتي كلها.
أكيد مصطفى، أكيد شكرا. أكيد رحلة طويلة ومليئة بالأحداث، من عربة كبدة لأفضل مطعم في مصر، the one to watch on world's 50 best. ما كانش سهل أبدا، لكن مع ذلك كنت دائما، يعني أنا اللي بشوفه منك كنت دائما متفائل ومؤمن إنه الأفضل لم يأتي بعد. كان
الحمد لله.
بإمكانك مش كان بإمكان مشوارك أن يأخذ طرق كثيرة،
اكيد اكيد.
لكني أعتقد أنه سر نجاحك كان في حبك لبلدك وإيمانك بأنك ستكون سفيراً لها في عالم الطهي. قصتك عرفناها، لكن حدثنا عن الجزء اللي أنا بهمني. أنت كيف ركزت على مصداقيتك وتفانيك في العمل حتى وصلت لهذا المستوى، ولم تدع الصعوبات أو خيبات الأمل حتى من أقرب الناس تثنيك عن المثابرة والاستمرار؟
بص انا اقول لكم حاجه. انا واحد ببسط لوحدي، مش لازم يكون معايا ناس كتير عشان انبسط. فالبني ادم اللي بيتبسط لوحده وبيعرف يعمل كل حاجه لوحده فيقدر يصدق نفسه في اي حاجه. فدي كانت اكتر حاجه. انا بحب نفسي قوي. انا بحب نفسي جدا جدا جدا، وعارف ان انا اقدر اعمل حاجات اكبر من اي حد ممكن يتخيلها، مع ان امكانياتي مش قويه. بس انا بعرف اشتغل على نقط الضعف بتاعتي بطريقه قويه جدا، وبعرف اطلع احلى حاجه فيا اخلي اللي يشوفني ينبهر. بس انا فعلا فعلا بعرف اقعد لوحدي، بعرف انبسط لوحدي، بعرف اشتغل كويس جدا. ومن اكتر الحاجات النجاح اللي انا مخلياني الفتره الجايه اللي فاتت دي كلها، الاربع سنين الخمس سنين دي، كانت الحياه الزوجيه هي اللي خلتني استقريت اكتر، وخلتني مركز جدا لان انا يبقى عندي قصه احكيها لاولادي. فدي كانت اكتر حاجه مخلياني يعني عندي هدف ان انا بعد 10 سنين لازم يكون عندي قصه اقدر احكيها لاولادي، وان شاء الله لو ربنا اراد لاحفادي يعني.
No, incredible, Mustafa. I wanted to know the secret of this continuous focus. Everything that Mustafa has done throughout the past few years, it's been a lot of self-development, a lot of self-learning, and a lot of self-belief, no matter the challenges. So incredible journey that I thought a lot of us could definitely learn from. Obviously, you know, every chef has his or her own journey, but I think Mustafa is quite particular. Staying with family and influence, I want to move to you, Qais. And the story of Shams al-Balad is deeply tied to your family. Both your father and mother have played influential roles in shaping what the restaurant has become, carrying with them deep knowledge of the history of Jordan and Palestine and the cultural traditions of the region. So how has their influence shaped your own vision, and how do you project that heritage through your own work at Shams?
As you mentioned, Shams al-Balad is very much a product of our family legacy. It started with my parents, my mother as a gardener, florist, designer, my father as someone who's very passionate about heritage, archaeology. Sorry, this fly coming. Heritage, archaeology, and agriculture. And that was really the beginning of the journey because my father started a foundation about 2010 that was looking at heritage grains in Jordan, because Jordan historically, and Palestine, but Jordan more so, was really the breadbasket of the whole region. And the origin of wheat is traced back to our region, and I think specifically to Egypt and the greater Bilad al-Sham. Jordan, for now, is where they found the oldest known archaeological proof of wheat, milled wheat, bread, sourdough there, as well as in Egypt. And then over the past 2,000 years, what's happened has been a erosion of that culinary heritage, through different encounters. Obviously, the most defining encounter over that period is the encounter between, the West and our region, the Arab world. We can start from any moment. I think a particularly definitive one probably was during the Crusades time, where this is from the Crusades time to, I would say, the beginning of, modern colonialism. There's been a very tenuous relationship where the Arab world has been seen as the ultimate evil for the West. Unfortunately for us, the West was able to discover the New World, quote unquote, the Americas, due to the slave trade. They were first to industrialization, so they had the tools and the resources to really go out and dominate everyone else. Mm-hmm. That domination then led to our subservience. And that obviously shows through many things. Jordan today actually grows 3% of our own consumption of wheat. And we get 97% from the US, mostly in the form of aid. Most of the aid we get is conditioned on giving up any form of agency or control over our own land, culture, culinary heritage, etc. We get grants to grow forests on the condition that those trees are non-fruit trees, because they don't want us to start growing fruit and have a stable economy that empowers people and gives us, the opportunity to grow ourselves and develop. Anyway. This, I think, encounter is really definitive of what we struggle with when we talk about Arabic cuisine and food today, especially in a restaurant setting. And that, for me, looking at Shams al-Balad when I started, was the main issue. Our family heritage is based on our journey from 1948 to today, as all four of my grandparents became refugees from Palestine. And throughout that journey, all four of them, my two parents, and myself and my siblings, have been very dedicated to, resisting our subservience and our dispossession. That translates into many things. And our job now with what we're doing at Shams al-Balad, I think, is a very central aspect of our mode of resistance. The way we think about our food now is really defined by how we consider ourselves and our sense of agency. I think for us at Shams al-Balad now, going from, okay, how do we go from we grow 3% of our own wheat to actually we have the demand and people won't use the imported wheat that's used for aid. And this is the value of our platform, is that we really focus on our suppliers, our community. The wheat we use now is an NGO that grew alongside us and is one of our major partners, who has revived heritage grains that are 10,000 and 15,000 years old. We use a strain that's about 12,000 years old, the Horani wheat that we'll be serving today actually at our dinner, that was extinct until 5 years ago. They got it from a seed bank and revived it slowly. And it has no relation really to the imported American wheat that's flooded the market. I think it's a very roundabout answer to your question. But for me, what our family has dealt with is this rupture in our lineage from 1948. And I think when I had the pleasure of visiting Tarek in Lebanon, the most painful thing for me was seeing the beauty of the country, the beauty of having access to your history and your story. And that's something we're denied. And I think now what we're trying to do is actually find ways to, I don't want to say rewrite, but actually focus on that rupture as a central trauma in our journey and how that defines what we produce and what we show the world. And instead of shying away from that, actually shining a light on it in a way that's productive and saying, okay, this is part of a whole legacy of exploitation that's been happening all across the region and really defines in very many ways every individual country that's been carved out of our region and how they exist today. And most of us are intentionally placed on life support. Yeah. And the question, I think, for anyone operating in any field in the Arab world today is, how can we actually take ourselves off life support without completely being sabotaged from external factors? I think this is the very delicate balance that we're trying to strike, to have a sense of agency, to look at our food and our culture in a way that's independent, understand the value of knowledge and the fact that we got restaurant cooking and restaurant culture at the barrel of a gun through our colonial encounter with the West. So most of the language that we now use in restaurant kitchens is military language, the same language that was used to colonize our whole region, murder millions of people in North Africa and in our whole area, the Arabian Peninsula, and the same language used to perpetuate genocide in Gaza today. So how do we separate and how do we create an independent body of language where we can operate with some sort of
our own agency, perhaps?
I've said agency many times, but yes, that's it. Agency, and find our own separate value. And I think that's our main mission at Shams, and I think all the chefs here also represent that, is we don't want to be defined as people who are trying to emulate what the West and Western chefs are doing. And I think that's a trap we have to be very aware of. Yeah. But we want to be actually chefs and cultural agents who produce our own independent body of work that's rooted in our own traditions and our own culture, understanding very well that we're part of a global community and we have access and exposure to everything happening around us all across the world, and that has immense value for us to learn from. I'm not suggesting that we should be insulated, but I'm suggesting that we should be very aware of what actually compromises our work if we don't look into it, because the politics around food and food in our region is just inseparable from what's happening.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a perfect example of using a very strong platform to discuss all of this and have this form of very strong and clear identity. And I'll never forget also part of your talk a few years back when you were arguing for finally replacing what is considered luxury ingredients in menus today, things like truffle and burrata, with micro-seasonal ingredients like akkoub and khobbeze and humayd. But quickly, at Shams, ingredients and seasonality are definitely central to this whole philosophy. Give us a snapshot of what that looks like across an entire year, the ingredients that define each season in Jordan and Palestine, and the kinds of dishes that you build around them. You can give us a kind of a...
Yeah, definitely. In Jordan in particular, we're very fortunate because we have the Dead Sea and the Jordan Valley, which is 400 meters below sea level. Then we have, more sea level agricultural areas. And then we have areas that are 1,000 meters, 2,000 meters above sea level. So we're quite spoilt with our seasonality because we grow some things year-round in different areas that are all, grown locally. So, for example, tomatoes, eggplants, cucumbers, zucchini, we have access to year-round. Herbs, parsley, coriander, when the winter, they're grown in the Jordan Valley. In the summer, they're grown in the mountains. And in between, they're grown throughout the, spring and autumn. We do have some very key ingredients that obviously go through the seasonal calendar. What we try to do at Shams also now is focus, like many of the chefs here, on traditional preservation techniques, learning a lot from different cultures around the world and how they ferment and pickle, and create dishes that rotate the star ingredient and build stuff around that for each dish, because we're a large restaurant. We're like 250 to 300 seats depending on the day and what areas are operating. So it's very difficult. I always wanted to do like a, changing menu every day. I know maybe some of you do that. For us, it's almost impossible with that kind of scale. But what we do is we have a seasonal menu that highlights really the fresh produce of the season and then the ferments that we've been working on for the past, 6 months, 6 months. And usually it follows some sort of similar rhythm for the menu and then within each dish. So for example, we have maftoul dish, which is the hand-rolled, larger kind of Palestinian couscous that changes throughout the year. So we go with, beginning with carrot, then we go through asparagus, then we do it with sweet corn, then we do it with butternut squash, and sometimes we change that as well. So that's how we approach seasonality at the restaurant.
I love it, Tarek. I love it. Guys, thank you. I'll move to Tarek. And Tarek, you're an expert on ingredients from the region and from your home country, from Lebanon, a land of rich biodiversity and traditions, still waiting, I think, to be fully explored. Now, looking at the Danish experience, where René Redzepi and his peers have turned to their own backyard for inspiration and through transformative techniques that we were talking about with Qais, like fermentation and pickling, they placed Danish cuisine on the global map. Is it too naive to imagine something similar for our cuisine, or is there more to it?
I don't think it's naive, because I think when they started back then at Noma, it was just like a small dream. And if you go back a bit in history, it's only 20 years ago. Nobody would have visited Copenhagen to eat or imagine that there's a food experience in Scandinavia. I think it's similar to Lebanon in a way that we have a lot of foraging, but we never use it in restaurants. So where I come from, people eat a lot of wild things, especially in seasons, like going from birds to herbs, greens, and berries, but was never introduced in a restaurant form. So I think slowly, especially the past 8 months since we opened Bay House, people are starting to accept eating ingredients they know and they would usually eat in season, like green chickpeas. You would eat it as a snack in the house. But like in the beginning in the restaurant, when we started putting it on the menu, people were a bit shocked that this is kind of a cheap ingredient in the season. Like fancy is caviar, fancy is truffles, fancy. So in Beirut, people were like happy, they accepted us, they're enjoying these things. It became something cool that, okay, I know this, I used to eat it when I was a kid. So slowly, these ingredients will become more and more accessible, because now we struggle to get them, right? Because we work with ladies in small villages to collect for us some little amounts, and transporting them to Beirut is a bit of logistics. But I think with this movement, if another restaurant start to use it, it becomes a very common ingredient, and the accessibility of it will be very easy. So yeah, I think we have a big dream, and I think there's no shame in dreaming, and we never know where we're gonna go, So, but we're proud of our heritage, we're proud of our cuisine and our ingredients, and slowly we'll grow there.
Excellent, Tarek. Thank you. I'll move to you, Fayçal. Morocco has one of the most recognized and beloved food cultures in the Arab world, perhaps in the entire world. Yet the question of identity in Moroccan cuisine is still evolving, especially in fine dining. How do you see the balance between honoring deep-rooted traditions and pushing forward with contemporary interpretations through perhaps your restaurant as well?
In Morocco, like you said, it's an old country with deep-rooted culture and food culture. Also, a very touristic country, and sometimes that could be a double-edged sword. We have our traditional food, but then people come and they want, and most restaurants become for show and where are the belly dancers and fires and everything, and then we drift away from the food, unfortunately. When we moved to Morocco, the idea was never to make Moroccan food modern, because that's a fight we don't want to take on. I've opened a restaurant before when I was younger, and I made that mistake in the U.S. And people will come and be like, "Well, this is not the couscous for my mom," and like, but I'm not trying to make your mom's couscous, you know. But the idea was to bring a different view to the restaurant and to the ingredients and sustainability that's not happening in Morocco now. It's to bring a more just a different vision of how to approach the ingredients. The restaurant is focused on the sea mainly. We're about 5 minutes from the port of Casablanca. So our heart is the ocean. Whatever the ocean gives us is what we put on the plate. And we go back to food that we grew up with. And not every household in Morocco eats a tagine every day or couscous every day. And unfortunately, that's what you see in menus all the time because, well, that's what sells. Just grilled sardines and a tomato salad, that's a Moroccan dish that you eat a lot more than a couscous. So we go to that direction of what you would eat at home. The ingredients that they're not, like you said, a burrata. Now in every restaurant in Casablanca, you will have a burrata, we'll have a sea bass. So we go to the market and we look for fish and seafood that is, would say, not less desirable, but that people don't know. Cooking a stingray instead of a turbo. And those fish usually go for export. So we go to the markets or to the port and trying to source those ingredients. And we are lucky, not like you have. We have 38-seat restaurant, so we could change the menu quite often, and we can offer dishes or try on people and see how they like it or they don't like it, if they even know the product or the produce or the fish. We've only been in Morocco now back after 25 years, back for about 2 years now. So we're still exploring. It's very diverse. We have the Atlas Mountain that breaks the country, so the ecosystem is very different. We can go from snow all the way to the Sahara Desert with amazing ingredients that are not used. We have the Mediterranean, the Atlantic. We have rivers. There is not one restaurant in Morocco that serves a river fish. So we're trying to source those kind of ingredients just to, present them to our guests and see if they like them or not. We're still in the testing period. I think we will be in a testing period.
For some time to come, for sure.
For some time to come.
It's evolving.
It's evolving, and I think we like the journey more than we're not getting anywhere. We are enjoying the journey. We're making mistakes. We're sourcing products. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not good. People sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, I don't want to eat a stingray. Let me have a piece of sea bass," and then we'll have 10 people be like, "Oh, this is amazing. I didn't know this tastes like that." So it's a journey. We're learning. We're traveling. We're lucky that in Morocco, I can drive 3 hours and we're in Spain. I can drive the other side and we're in Algeria. And we have a different type of Amazigh or Berbers, so with different languages, different culture, different food. We're talking about foraging. We're finding new ingredients that I didn't know about growing up there. Hearts of palm and small river fish or crayfish. So we are doing a lot of travel, a lot of research, and the menu is evolving. And hopefully, other chefs in the region. I'm sure there are, but other chefs in the country will push forward, because I think the more chefs you have around you and sharing ideas, I think we can move forward a lot faster.
For sure. But it's really all about that, re-exploring ingredients and traditions rather than wanting to recreate recipes. So really looking at what you eat at home. It's not tagine every day. So I love that. That's incredible. مصطفى، غالبية الناس بيعرفوا المطبخ المصري من خلال أطباق الشارع. أما أنت قررت أنك تغير هاي الصورة، كيف تقوم بذلك مع الحفاظ على المصداقية واحترام المكونات وصون التراث وأسلوب الطهي؟ فحدثنا عن هذا التحول من بعض الأطباق المميزة اللي عندك في خوفو.
طيب بالنسبه لي في قواعد ما بتتغيرش في الاكل المصري او اي اكل تراديشنال. الطعم ما ينفعش يتغير. يعني ما ينفعش تقول لي هاكلك ملوخيه وطعمها مش ملوخيه. ما ينفعش تاكلني كشري طعمه مش كشري. ما ينفعش تاكلني شوربه عدس طعمها مش شوربه عدس. يعني فدي المشكله. ساعات المشكله اللي كانت قبل كده اللي الناس لما كانت بتغير عشان تغير الشكل وتغير الحاجه كانت بتنسى الطعم. بتقول لك اللون والناقص لون وناقص ما اعرفش ايه ولازم يترص كده. الاكل مش محتاج يترص. انا بالنسبه لي مش بحب كلمه فاين دايننج قوي. انا بحب اتكلم اقول كومفورت فود، يعني اكل بيت. انا لما جيت اعمل خوفو كنت بنافس امي في المطبخ، بنافس جدتي، بنافس امهات مصر. انا بعمل اكل اللي انت بتاكله من اعز الناس ليك. يعني انت جاي تاكل اكل مصري اللي انت بتاكله متربى عليه من امك. انا بنافس اعلى حد في خيالك. فلو ما عملتش يعني، ودي اللي انا كنت القاعده اللي انا كنت بتكلم بيها مع الشباب عندي كلهم. يعني انت هتعمل رز بلبن، لو ما عملتش احلى رز بلبن في مصر ما تعملوش. لو هتعمل فطير، دي كانت كارثتي لحد دلوقتي في الفطير مشلتت. انا كل الجست بيجي يقول لي عايز فطير مشلتت. انا فعلا مش هعرف اعمل فطير مشلتت احسن من اللي كان بيجي لي من البلد. فعمري ما هعرف اعمله. فعمال اشتغل عليه لغايه اما اعمله احسن ما كان بيجي لي من البلد. فالمفروض لما تيجي تعمل حاجه لازم تتمسك بالجذور بتاعتها، غير في شكلها، حسن فيها. لو هي فيها زيت كتير او فيها سمنه كتير قلل شويه. لو فيها توم كتير قلله شويه. اعمل التوم بطريقه تانية، بدل ما هو يتحط فريش يتحط كونفي، يبقى الحده بتاعت التوم تتغير. يعني انا بالنسبه لي طبق الكشري اللي جه كله من عندي وجي جربه، هو الانجريدينت كلها مش انجريدينت كشري. يعني ما فيهوش صوص طماطم، ما فيهوش مكرونه، ما فيهوش رز، بس بتاكل كشري. هي دي اهم حاجه. فدي العادات والتقاليد اللي انا اتربيت عليها عمري ما بغيرها، لان ده احلى اكل انا اتربيت عليه واحلى اكل انا اكلته في حياتي. فمستحيل اني اغير طعم الاكل اللي انا لما بيلمس لساني الذاكره عندي بتشتغل. فدي مش بحس دي مش شطاره. يعني دي كانت المشكله قبليه اللي كلهم لما بيجي يغيروا الاكل المصري بيغيروه جذري، بيخلوه اوروبي. هو ما ينفعش تغير الاكل المصري له اوروبي. خلي المصري احلى وانضف وكلير اكتر عشان يناسب الاوروبي لما يجي ياكل. هو ده من وجهه نظري.
No, it's fascinating. I think what Mostafa was trying to say is that taste is king. We're not really here about recreating recipes or challenging traditional recipes, but to really have a new look, a new vision, a new perspective. No, amazing. I'll move on and go back to you, Fayçal, and staying with innovation and techniques. There is something to be learned from the Japanese experience. What can chefs from our region learn from that food culture, not just in terms of technique, but as an enabler for us to leap forward in defining new cuisine?
I mean, we all have ancient cultures and ancient countries with deep culture and just like the Japanese culture. And in Japan, they're able to have the modern and the old, live side by side without clashing. And we tend, or from what I saw, it tends to clash a little bit. Either it's in a Moroccan restaurant they're trying to be too modern, or but having it side by side, we need restaurants to keep things traditional, and we need restaurants to push a little bit to do research and when it comes to products or technique and new flavors, new combinations. I mean, I don't know about, I didn't travel in the whole region, but in Morocco, I know that some combinations are blasphemy. You don't combine certain tastes, and those rules sometimes they just block us from moving forward and evolving in the kitchen. I mean, in our kitchen, we have no rules. If it tastes good, it tastes good. You know, like there is no rule that we cannot combine fish and mushroom. You know, it's if it tastes good, we go with it. And having the old and new side by side and complementing each other, I think is very important.
No, it's something that's fascinating because we see a lot of that influence in a lot of our cuisines, and the idea here is to perhaps inspire from that vision of looking at, honoring ingredients, looking at different techniques of approaching things. There are many stories that I hear a lot from chef friends. Qais, we were just talking about this, right? About what you can take from chef's perspective in other places in the world on certain ingredients that have very similar flavor profile. I was talking to my very good friend, amazing pastry chef in Dubai, Carmen Rueda, where she is experimenting with a local moringa and is extremely bitter leaf. So speaking to her counterparts somewhere like Colombia, where they're looking at certain bitterness, she was able to get in new techniques that they're doing to reduce that bitterness that she never thought possible. So there's so much to be learned from different cuisines. Tarek, I'm jumping little topics here and there. You work with a lot of artisans. How important is this to your journey? And how is that relationship? It's not straightforward, it's obviously complex and diverse, especially in a place like Lebanon. But how important is working with artisans to your journey and generally to the journey of chefs, and especially chefs in the Arab world, and transforming our cuisine?
Of course, it's very important. We're lucky in Lebanon that people use a lot of, we call it moune, which basically our preservation method, which we have in every Arab country. We're lucky that we have a very diverse one, also although the country is very small. So at Bay House, we try to work with a lot of different producers or artisans that do, like some of the products we buy is from my mom's friends. So they produce like these pickled wild cucumbers for us. It's a bit challenging because sometimes the production is not very good. Sometimes it's a bit too salty. It's not very consistent. But we're trying to work a lot with the suppliers. Remember, Omar, when you came with us to Burj Hamoud, which is the Armenian Lebanese area, we in a similar trip that we were together, we discovered the cherry stems. Yep. Remember the Syrian fishna? It's a sour cherry. So apparently, in the Armenian Lebanese culture, they use the stems in cooking. So with one of the trips, we took back the stems. We did the cherry stem kombucha, which tastes even better than the cherries and tastes woody and almost like cinnamon. Incredible. So discoveries are big along the way. We still didn't cover much of the potential of the country or the area we're working with, like just the greater Beirut. So, but it needs a bit of time. We're still pretty young restaurant. We're like 9 months old. So
I had the privilege of visiting a restaurant and obviously seeing all the work that you're doing, and it's evolving, and it is a journey, again, similar to other journeys. How do you see if you had no boundaries, and what is the vision for the next few years for Bay House? What are you seeing?
I mean, things went pretty fast for us in a way. Like, we just opened, we introduced our first tasting menu in the country. It went very well. We opened the lab, so now we have a fully operational fermentation lab. Till now, we produced like 250 kilos of chickpea miso and another 250 of lentil miso. So production is pretty fast in our lab. We produce koji using Egyptian rice, actually. So kombuchas are on the way, even amazake. So the production in the lab is fully, and we're implementing it in our new menu. We're changing actually our menu next week. So fully the tasting menu into a winter menu, and the a la carte menu will have 12 dishes that will be changed. So if there's no boundaries, like if we want to dream so big, but we don't really talk about it when you're a chef and a business owner, is like your dream versus the financials and like how things gonna work. So we're pretty happy where we are now. We want to push forward. The Bay House is evolving. Our style is evolving. The people around us are, even our staff. So I think the ultimate dream would be that the whole restaurant will be a set menu, like kind of a chef tasting menu, and we remove the a la carte part. It will take some time. At least people accepted it for the first time in Lebanon to come and sit and eat whatever the chef wants to serve them. So this is already a plus that we do every day. We have like set menus and tasting menus. So yeah.
Exciting, Tarek. Qais, to go back to you, and I know this topic is important to you and to everyone. Appropriation is widespread when it comes to Arab cuisine. Dishes and traditions from our region are often claimed, rebranded, or simplified elsewhere. How should we, as chefs and custodians of this culture, respond to that? What is the best way to tackle appropriation while still encouraging creativity and evolution?
Obviously, we discussed already, and we will the root causes of what's driving the appropriation and what makes it possible is the erosion of our social, economic, political agency, and why it's so important, like the chefs were mentioning, to work with small-scale artisans in our communities, empower them to hone their craft, revive these crafts, because if we don't do it with our platforms, then obviously our cheesemakers will start to go out of business. The local farmers will start to go out of business, and Monsanto mega farms will dominate. And once we lose that craft that really powers any successful restaurant that's working with local ingredients, we won't be able to counter any attempts at appropriation. I do believe that the appropriators, let's call them, with their false claims and their manufactured identity, have a very flimsy basis for their claims. So I think if you're politically conscious and aware, you're not buying it. But for us, our issue has been for a long time our own complacency with our culture, and our internalizing of this concept that our culture is a past phenomenon, and the future is the West, and the future is caviar on things and truffles shaved on whatever, right? And it goes back to the conversation about how we define luxury and where we decide to allocate value. If we allocate value to the White West, then that means we want to use truffle and caviar in our menus. And when we look at our products that are just as labor intense and just as difficult to source and process, we find that they're not fancy, quote unquote. But then when the people trying to appropriate our food come and take those ingredients and repackage them and relabel them as their own, we can't sit and complain about it because we've been doing nothing about it. I think what these chefs are doing and what a lot of people in the region are doing is the way we counter cultural appropriation. It's by really investing in the people working the land, producing all the ingredients that are so key to our culture, and then also pushing and finding ways to innovate, be creative with those ingredients, and kind of setting boundaries, I think. Like we at the restaurant don't use anything imported as much as possible. If we do use something imported, it's imported from Syria or Saudi or Egypt. But setting boundaries of like, we don't use truffle, we don't use caviar, we don't use in Jordan razor clams, for example, right? We need to find other things that resonate with us and that make sense for us to use. And then when you start to look at those ingredients and you go on a journey like we were talking about one of the dishes on the menu for tonight, you can start to figure out actually how that innovation comes through technique. And that technique obviously is informed by our global perspectives, but it stays rooted in our local economies, our cultures, our lived experiences. And I think that's the bridge that we need to build, with our cuisine moving forward.
No, absolutely, Qais, and really incredible takeaways from this. And it really goes back to building that connection with the land, having that real sense of place, that connection with artisans, with farmers. That's really where it starts from. هنتقل لمصطفى. في عالم اليوم رواية القصة عنصر أساسي من تجربة الطعام. كيف تقدر أو تستطيع أن تقدم حكاية أصيلة من تراثك من قلب مصر، مش بس للزوار بس لأصعب النقاد اللي هم الضيوف المصريين والعرب؟
دي اسهل حاجه بالنسبه لي، لان فعلا احنا بلد مليانه قصص، احنا حياتنا كلها قصص. لما انت بتحكي طبق اصلا، ده اسهل حاجه ان انت تحكي له قصه، قصتك الشخصيه، قصه الانجريدينت جايه منين، قصه الطبق ده انت دقته فين قبل كده، قصه الطبق ده اساسه منين. احنا القاهره في القرن ال17 كانت هي منطقه الاكل اللي العالم كله بيجي يدوق الاكل وثقافه الاكل فيها والافكار فيها. فاحنا كل حاجه عندنا ليها قصه، من اول الحضارات اللي دخلت، الفرعونيه والاسلاميه والاغريقيه واليونانيه، وكله كله 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 دخل بذكريات وتفاصيل. فبالنسبه لي لما بحكي قصه طبق، ده اسهل حاجه في الدنيا بالنسبه لي. انا بحب احكي القصه بتاعتي انا الشخصيه. يعني مثلا لما بحكي قصه الطبق الكشري اللي معمول في خوفو، هو قصته بسيطه جدا 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 جدا. هو بالنسبه لي انا كنت عايز اعمل دايت، واكل الاستاف النهارده كشري، فرحت شايل المكرونه وشايل الرز وشايل الصلصه التقيله، وشلت الحاجات اللي كلها فيها كارب كتير، ورحت حاطط جرجير وحاطط شويه طماطم شيري، وحطيت صوص الفينجريت اللي هو الدقه، وقلبت وحطيت الحاجات المقليه وحطيت معاها بيضه. انا قلت ده احلى كشري ممكن يتداق في الحياه. فبالنسبه لي ده طبق الكشري. طبق مثلا اللي انا بعتز بيه اللي هو السيجنتشر ديش بتاعي، طبق البط بالفريك. ده الضيافه المصريه. يعني لما تروح لاي حد في بيته، لو ما اكلكش بط يبقى هو مش معتني بيك قوي. يعني طبق البط ده في مصر، انت كده انت باشا. واحد جاي من الجيش اول زياره، طبق البط. اول يوم رمضان، طبق البط. جاي عريس جديد، طبق البط. جاي زياره في لبلد جديده، لازم يدبح لك دكر البط المتربي. يعني دكر البط ده عندنا ده حاجه مقدسه. فسهل اللي انت تحكي، اللي انت تقول طبق بط. فاحنا بلد حكاوي. احنا الناس كانت بتمشي في الشارع تحكي حكاوي والناس تتلم عليها. فهدي الحكاوي، فاحنا اكلنا كله حكاوي. فانا بالنسبه لي اسهل حاجه اللي انت تعمل قصه لطبق عندك في المنيو. واعتقد كل بلد ليها حضاره وليها ثقافه. اسهل حاجه اللي انت تحكي طبق يعني ليه قصه. فده اسهل حاجه عندي بالنسبه لي.
No, amazing, Mustafa.
اتمنى تكونوا كلكم مقتنعين باللي انا بقوله. ها
For sure, for sure. There's obviously incredible view on authenticity when it comes to storytelling. And it really has to do with ingredients, but also has to do with genuine hospitality, because nothing, you can't pull through any of that. I want to finish off with Fayçal, just a really quick one. Geographically, Morocco is an entry point from the east to the west. How have influences from neighboring countries and cultures shaped Moroccan cuisine? And how do you see Morocco paving the way for the rest of the Arab world to tell its own story on the global stage?
Well, yeah, Morocco, it's an African country. It's an Arab country. We have our thing with Europe. We're a couple miles away. And we have our story with Spain and Andalus. But also the indigenous Moroccans. I mean, besides Arabic, we have Tarifit, Tishlahit, Tamazight. So we have three types of people with their own culture, own language, own food, and their story is not told. And we can see the European influence in Morocco, and we can see the Arab influence, obviously. We can see the African influence, but there is the indigenous people. I mean, I don't want to say the real Moroccans, but the indigenous people of the Atlas Mountains, and their story is still not told. When we travel, we taste the food, and we're from there, and I'm amazed. We have our neighbors, obviously Mauritania, Algeria, and we have this food that comes from sub-Saharan countries and that influence Moroccan food. But being in that region, it's very important in our restaurants. It influences a lot what we do. but we really want to have the platform to tell the story of the indigenous Moroccans and in the region. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Fayçal. Do we have time for Q&A? What do we feel? If there are any questions in the audience for any of our incredible panelists, please say so now. Otherwise, we're all staying back for a bit. I think it was an interesting one, quite diverse. We have one. Okay. Yeah, please. Okay. Run.
Thank you very much for this. My question is to everyone. Why is it important to champion Arab cuisine? Like everyone is talking about what they're doing in the restaurants and how they're tied to the local farmers, how they're bringing out whatever is in the land and cooking it like their mothers or differently, but the taste is there. But why is it that important? And why is there's so much movement around this right now?
Any volunteers?
بالعربي يعني basically ليه الموضوع ده مهم؟ ليه مهم قوي ان احنا المطبخ العربي نحاول نزقه او نحاول نشتغل فيه اكتر او نحاول نحيي قصصه اكتر او ونستعمل المكونات العربيه اكتر ونظهرها اكتر دلوقتي للعالم.
ممكن ارد انا؟
اتفضل بليز.
احنا لو هنتكلم على اكلنا احنا بنذوقه ليه؟ لا احنا صدقنا بس ثقافتنا وبقينا نرجع لجذورنا وبقينا احنا المختلفين، فاحنا ابتدينا نهتم بافكارنا القديمه وتراثنا اكتر من الاول بكتير. احنا قعدنا في فتره اتمنى يعني تقريبا 100 سنه احنا فيها كلنا سنه كل العرب كله نسي ثقافته، كله بقى يبقى عايز يبقى اوروبي اكتر ما يبقى عربي. فاحنا دلوقتي بحس ان الناس كلها بترجع لجذورها تاني. فانا عندي حاجه بحبها قوي، انا كل ما اتوه واتشوش واحس مش عارف انا فين ارجع انا جيت منين. فاول ما بترجع انت منين وانت جيت منين فبتفهم انت ليه هنا دلوقتي. فانا بالنسبه لي انا حتى في الاكل كله انا كل ما اتوه في الافكار بتاعت الاطباق والمطبخ بتاعي، هو انا كنت باكل ايه الاول؟ ايه اللي انا كنت باكله؟ حجر صوت الطعميه بتاع الحجر انا عمري ما نسيته. عمري ما نسيت عربيه الفول اللي بتعدي من الشارع وراجل يقول فول بليله. يعني في حاجات كده ما بتنساهاش. فانا عن نفسي شخصيا انا برجع للجذور، ايه اللي انا كنت باكله وايه اللي انا كنت بشوفه في الشارع وايه اللي ستي كانت بتجيبه لي وايه اللي امي كانت بتجيبه لي وايه اللي انا كنت بجيبه من قدام المدرسه عشان اعرف اعمل حاجه جديده. الشيفs اللي جايه من بره كلهم هم مش عايزين يدوقوا منك اكل اوروبي خالص، والاوروبيين هم مش جايين ياكلوا الاكل بتاعهم، هم جايين يشوفوا ثقافتك انت بتعمل ايه. لما انا نزلت المغرب انا حبيت اكل الطاجين المغربي، انا عايز اكل اكل مغربي، مش راح ادخل مطعم فرنساوي او مطعم ايطالي عشان اكل اكل ايطالي. انا رايح المغرب فلازم ادخل اكل الثقافه المغربيه. لما رحت لطارق برضو انا كنت عايز اكل اكل لبناني، لما لففني في الشارع اللبناني انا انبسطت. لما رحت الاردن قيس والشباب هناك دوقونا اكل اردني، هو ده اللي انا مبسوط اللي انا ببسط فيه لما بروح. فبالنسبه لي احنا لازم نذوق المطبخ بتاعنا عشان دي هويتنا ودي ثقافتنا، فاللي ملوش ماضي ملوش حاضر.
Qais, you wanted to add something?
I think just building on what Mostafa said, it's the same logic as using local ingredients and working with local farmers. It's the question of how seriously do you take yourself, not in a serious like hake way, but in a, you want to present the best thing possible. And I think Mostafa actually was talking about this earlier. You want to showcase the best possible product at the end. Yeah. That's not going to be a fish coming from Japan, sorry Chang, that's been in the airport for a day and in the airplane in the airplane and then you know customs in Jordan ولا in Egypt ولا in هذا وجيب الورقة وودي الورقة ووقع هذا وبعدين تطلع بالترين وبعدين But we have a farm an hour away and we have the thing fresh, it comes out of the soil and we get it, that's going to be better quality. Even if on Netflix, on Hada, they show that, they don't show this, right? And the same applies. It's for me or for any of the chefs here, why would we cook Italian food? Like what? No one's cooking Italian food? There's not enough Italians doing that, you know, but who's cooking our food? So if we see the value in ourselves, we will invest in our own identity and culture. If we think we're worth nothing, then we'll sell ourselves out to the West mainly, but whoever else, and become just another, you know, cog in the machine. Or we build our own machine. This is the difference, I think.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. I hope we got something out of this for everyone. We're here. We're back. So appreciate it. Thanks for your time. Thanks for giving us this space and this platform. Thank you. Take a photo. So, yeah.